back to Neek the Podcast, where it's just the two of us. You and I. That's right, it's Kiku, your geriatric geek samurai.
No.
Oh, Dad. Oh, okay, this is not episode 59, another musical. We learned our lesson. And of course, joining me is my partner in crime, as always, the Demon Sour Cream, Josh Rachel Finney. Josh, how have you been, man?
I'm good. It's been a very long week, and it's about to get longer.
We are in the middle of a shitstorm right now, aren't we?
Oh, God, which one is it this time?
It's the Suicide Squad shitstorm. The petition to take down Rotten Tomatoes, which is funny because I don't think they understand that Rotten Tomatoes is owned by Flickster, which is owned by Fandango, which they probably bought their tickets off of, which is owned by NBC Universal. So if anybody...
Well, it's actually owned by Warner Brothers. Actually owns 33% of Rotten Tomatoes.
That's right. They do. So
that makes the conspiracy theory about Marvel and Disney are paying off the critics even better, because why would they do that? Like, the company is owned by Warner Brothers.
What really gets me, this is the kicker right here, right? Is the only conspiracy theory you could have is if only positive reviews showed up for this movie, and then you were like, oh, okay, Warner Brothers owns this place.
So during the week, before we get to this week's quick takes, Kiku and I were laughing, or he was laughing after I laughed. I was sending him the reactions of fanboys, critics, and fans alike from Reddit yesterday, and it was phenomenal.
It's amazing. Reddit
so
is
people were like,
place.
you know it's bad when we're forming a prayer circle trying to get this movie above 50%.
No. It was a prayer vigil like it's 9/11.
That was another one that we saw.
And I was just like, that is so amazing.
Oh,
why?
Man, it was bad. There were some really bad ones, and I cannot tell you how many breakdowns I've had to see from people, from, just cinema fans and even like super hardcore DC fans in general, saying that there's no conspiracy, that what Rotten Tomatoes does is it takes them, and if you're above a certain threshold, it's a fresh review. If you're below, it's rotten, hence the name, and that the movie may not actually be a 3 out of 10. Like, you need to realize that, like, a rotten review is anything that's like lower than a 6, I think. So
like
it's like the movie might actually be that bad. It might just be really divisive, but those are the scores that go next to the movies in iTunes, that go next to them in Vudu, that go next to them in Amazon Prime. Those are the numbers that everybody sees, and that's why it's so important. Like, oh, that's the overall critical reception. That also is usually indicative of how the public feels.
I mean, to bolster, though, the people that are fighting back against Rotten Tomatoes, one of our favorite movies, Prometheus, has a 71 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. Prometheus has a 71. I did not flat out hate Prometheus, but it wasn't any better than like a 6 out of 10 for me. Ghostbusters. Now, this is the best part. Everybody on Reddit has been part of the YouTube comment section, essentially. And yes, I just labeled Reddit as a whole because I saw way more hate than I did love for this. They've been against the Ghostbusters remake since it was announced. And they were making comments like, oh, it's a ploy by Sony to cater to the politically correct crowd. I went and saw the movie Ghostbusters because I like Ghostbusters. I like it. It's not one of my favorite movies. It certainly isn't going to ruin my childhood if you like Kate McKinnon, who was born to be a Ghostbuster, become a Ghostbuster. But that movie is sitting at 74 on Rotten Tomatoes. There are people legitimately freaking out that Suicide Squad has less than half of that as a score. Guys, just because it has a 73 doesn't mean it's a good movie. Just because it has a 33 doesn't mean it's a bad movie. One of my favorite movies, one of my guilty pleasures, has an absolutely terrible Rotten Tomatoes score. Titan AE, I'm Looking at You. I love that movie. I love that movie. It's cheesy. Movie. I love it, but it has terrible scores. I'm still going to have fun with it. Hell, I like the Digimon movie, and I guarantee you that shit has terrible reviews.
I can't follow you on the Digimon trail.
You should, because I love Digimon, but
they're like the Kmart version of Pokemon.
You know what? I was more attached to them than I was after Pokemon. To Pokemon after Silver came out.
Makes sense.
And I think that's because War Greymon is such a badass. But we're not here to talk about Digimans or Pokemans.
That's right. We're
We're gonna talk
actually
some
here to
news.
talk about, yeah, that's right, our news-tastrophe, news-apocalypse. Josh couldn't decide on the name tonight.
Josh's been
Uh,
drinking a little bit.
that's fine. That's fine. It's tea, kids. It's Southern Comfort tea. J.K. Rowling has
How
said
dare you insult me?
J.K. Rowling has said Harry Potter and the Cursed Child is the final tale featuring our favorite wizarding trio. That smells like bullshit. Of course, nobody believes this after she famously claimed the same thing following Deathly Hallows' release. She did. But then Pottermore came, and then the play, and then the book. Oh, and then before that, Fantastic Beast is going to be released in theaters in February.
AKA, it stopped being talked about for 2 years, so she
Right.
decided to make more stories. She decided to do Pottermore and all this stuff. You know, she's giving all these interviews, like revealing stuff we didn't really care to know about these characters. Like, it's not going to affect my perception in these books about his character's sexual orientation. If it mattered that much, put it in the damn book.
Right, and that's something we've said many times on the show.
Yes.
You know, look, Harry Potter, and I'm not saying it's equal, but it's very close, right? Very close in fans' hearts to Star Wars. You don't have to do things to keep it relevant all the time.
Right. These books were still being talked about before Pottermore came out. Like, I
Right.
found myself still going to Harry Potter fan sites every now and then just to talk with other fans occasionally. This was right when I was going off to college.
Look, right before Christmas, I marathon the movies all the time. You know what I mean? Like every
Right.
year, like I'm like, I gotta watch one.
Those are our Christmas movies now,
7.2.
actually. Chelsea and I watch those because there's always a Christmas scene in every movie.
Right.
And we watch those, and we watch the original Die Hard and The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, the Boris Karloff edition. Those are the three that we watch. Those are the three things we watch Christmas. So really, like 10 movies. But have you read Cursed Child yet? Out of curiosity.
No, I have not. Interesting enough, one of our favorite yet not favorite people on the face of the planet, Max Landis, put out a little mini review for it. Said the first half of the book was just like old Harry Potter. It was fantastic. The second half was all over the place, kind of like Deathly Hallows, but that he was riveted and he read the book in 2 days. He couldn't put it down. Very interested in picking it up as somebody who read all the books, seen all the movies, will be seeing Fantastic Beasts. I do not participate in Pottermore, nor do I care about your random tweets, JK, about characters, just random information that doesn't enhance nor detract from the story. It's pretty much just useless information
So,
out there.
I'm about 30, 40 pages from finishing the play. That's probably the most important thing for people to realize about this book. I don't think a lot of people really knew this. It's like, oh, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, awesome. This is a play script. That's what this is.
Right.
You're not skilled. If you've not read a lot of scripts in your life, it's gonna hurt your head a little bit. You're probably not gonna get through it in a couple of days. It's probably gonna take you a while.
A lot more imagination needed to read a play.
I read scripts regularly, and this took me a little while to get into just because I had to reassume, you know, what these characters look like. What do they look like 19 years in the future? Because their representation at the end of Deathly Hallows is not what I imagine them looking like. They look way too good for that. This, I wasn't grabbed by about the first third. I was talking about this with Ray and with Michael Ratliff in our group, actually. And I said I wasn't grabbed in the first third. I read a lot more that night. I started getting into it more, but now that I'm getting close to the end, it reads like bad fan fiction to me. Like this is published fan fiction, essentially. It's important to note J.K. really did not write this, but I've heard from people who've gone and seen the play is a completely different experience, as all plays are after you've read a script. But this is the closest any of us are going to get to it until Warner Brothers makes that movie. If they make this into a movie, I'll be there opening night. I will not be seeing Fantastic Beasts opening night because I think that's just a blatant cash grab, especially announcing a trilogy for it. If it was tied more closely to the events of the Harry Potter movies, I would care more. Like, oh, it's about the dragons that, you know, it's about how Charlie Weasley captured the dragons that are going to be in Goblet of Fire. That would be awesome. I would be all over that. This just doesn't grab me.
I would agree with you, except they put in one of my weaknesses. It takes place
Colin
in
Farrell?
1920. No, I will punch you in your kneecap so you have to limp while you drink. No, 1920s New York. As everybody may or may not know, New York City is my hometown, and I love the 20s through the 50s look of New York City. I absolutely love it. So not only that, Eddie Redmayne, He's an Academy Award winner.
Mhm.
I'm interested to see what he does as Newt.
Right. I mean, okay, so I'll rephrase it. I'm interested in this, just not enough to not see it at a $5 matinee.
Fair enough.
So
Fair enough. Well, we're going to move on. Life is Strange. If you haven't played the game, you're dumb. Is being adapted into a show by Square Enix, DJ2 Entertainment, and Legendary. That's still a company. Okay, fair enough. Details are scarce, but characters from the game will appear in the series, and it will not impact development of a sequel. It should be noted the game's creators are unaware if they will be involved, and that the same studios are trying to make a live-action Sonic. I hope this is Sonic the Restaurant. Like, it's going to be a comedy with kids on roller skates delivering double cheeseburgers.
that
and
would be better
ice
than the proposed Sonic movie, which is going to be a hybrid of CG and live action, which just sounds terrible.
Okay, I haven't done this in a while on the show, but it's going to be fucking Scooby-Doo. We're going to have Sonic Scooby-Doo.
James Gunn isn't involved. It's not Scooby-Doo.
Oh, James Gunn is involved. Okay, there's hope.
James Gunn wrote Scooby-Doo.
Oh, shit.
That's an excellent example of how studio interference ruins things, because he's gone on the record and said they changed basically his entire script, and Matthew Lillard has even said they shot 2 different movies. So, yeah. Side note, Life is Strange as a series actually sounds really cool. I have not played the series yet. I have it sitting on my Xbox. It's been sitting there for months. Yeah, Ray tells me that pretty regularly, that I just need to get around to playing it. It's on my to-do list, which is rapidly growing. But it seems it's one of those I could probably sit down and knock out an episode a night. So maybe one of these weeks I'll get around to doing it.
Someone who loved Quantum Break so much, the fact that you haven't played Life is Strange is odd and unusual to me.
It's odd and unusual to me after I've read so much about it and heard so much about it that I have not played it yet either.
I played this game. Me.
People ask all the time if I've played it, and they're like, "Oh, what'd you think about it if you played it?" I was like, "I haven't played it yet." What? It's right up your alley. I know. So apologies to anybody who's ever asked me that question. But yeah, that's kind of rad, I guess. I'm not too big on adaptations still. Assassin's Creed will pretty much determine if there's a nail in that coffin.
Well, if they play Kanye throughout half the movie, there will be. Anywho's ways, the sequel reboot of The Rocketeer, for all you young kids, that was a movie that we grew up on from Touchstone, called The Rocketeers, is on the way. Set 6 years after the original film, the film will star a black female lead in the titular role. No release date is currently set. While I haven't seen this online, this caused a huge stir with a friend of mine who is a huge Rocketeer fan. He hates the fact that they're not sticking with the same character.
I think that, in the synopsis that they released, the character has gone missing. So I think that character will come back through some inexplicable event. Also, everybody needs to remember that, there's no point in recasting these roles because that's a cult classic. Don't recast the roles, but those actors have obviously grown a lot in 25 years. Find some way to bring back the Rocketeer himself, though. I would really enjoy that. This is a movie I've seen one time. I need to get back to seeing it. I need to see it a second time. So I really don't have a problem with this. I just think it's hilarious how many people are like, the same people who authorized Ghostbusters are doing this. No, they're not. It's a different studio. Shut up.
Right. Well, we're going to get back into it. The first reactions of the hotly anticipated Suicide Squad are in, and they are obviously not good, right? The film is resting at 33% on Rotten Tomatoes, 34 I think it's up to now.
Oh, boy. It's gaining on us.
It's gaining traction. And despite getting some reviews better than Batman vs. Superman, has been largely criticized for its editing, narrative, and more. Director David Ayer also yelled, "Fuck Marvel," in response to a fan in the audience of the premiere screaming, "Fuck Marvel." And he has recanted it. He apologized on Twitter afterwards, said he got caught up in the moment. Despite all of this, though, the film is on track for a $130 million opening weekend, which, Batman vs. Superman did a lot of money opening weekend and horribly critically panned. Also, it was nice that, and I'm going to say this because it sounds so fanboyish and I love it, Marvel COO Joe Quesada comes out and, supported David Ayer and said, he looked forward to seeing the movie and everything was cool. because Joe is a classy guy.
Well, Quesada is no stranger to immense amounts of criticism. This guy was responsible for Brand New Day, so a lot of his criticism is pretty deserved, I'll say. But yeah, I just think the self-anointed panning of movies before they come out needs to stop, and also crowning them as the savior of the universe needs to stop. Trashing other companies needs to stop from within companies. It's all ridiculous. The movie is actually down to 31 right now. I just checked.
Oh, okay.
However you slice it, that's pretty bad. But it's really, like we said before, it's really important to note that just because a movie gets a bad score on Rotten Tomatoes doesn't mean anything. Rotten Tomatoes is an aggregate score, just like Metacritic. And don't try using an IMDb score to argue with us, because IMDb, you can start voting for it like months before it comes out. It's sitting at a 8.1 right now on IMDb, and it was a 10 out of 10 when the premiere happened. So,
There's also, actually, I read an interview with your favorite actor earlier today, Jai Courtney.
God, I hate you. You can have a good movie, or you can have Jai Courtney. You cannot have both.
Right. But he insinuated that, the cast loved each other, and they were, there was studio interference, and David Ayer's vision was messed up. And at least they were like some big blockbuster franchises where the stars don't even talk to each other. And I was just like, that's so unnecessary to put in there. Like, it just really is.
What, that he said all that?
That, he had to bring up another. They asked him if it was Marvel, right? And he was just like, I don't want to say anything. I don't know. Just I know that on other big blockbuster franchises, some of the stars don't like each other.
He may be referring to when he was in the fifth Die Hard with Bruce Willis, which, if that movie is any indication, it's completely Jai Courtney's fault. But this was all pretty much confirmed, and a lot of this, we've suspected this for a while, right? That there's a lot of studio interference going on at Warner Brothers, not just in DC, but in all of their projects. The last bona fide hit that they had at all was Mad Max, and that's because they let George Miller do his thing for like 15 years and didn't push him. And probably because George Miller told them in a very Aussie voice, piss off. They got the ultimate yes man in Zack Snyder, I feel. And everybody's saying, oh, well, Zack Snyder wasn't even involved in this. Yes, he's an executive producer on it. Like, yes, EP credits can vary, but when you're basically the Joss Whedon or the Kevin Feige of this universe, you're deeply involved. Right. It's good that they're getting Geoff Johns in as fast as possible. I will say that. If it's still bad after Geoff Johns takes over with Wonder Woman and Justice League, then that shows that it's 100% the studio interference, and we'll really never know what could have come from these directors. The Hollywood Reporter had a really good expose today, but it pinned blame pretty fairly on both parties. They're the ones who broke the Fantastic Four story last year as well about Josh Trank, basically saying that, David Ayer, once the movie got greenlit, wrote the movie in 6 weeks, and they started shooting. That's insane. And that lines up with the previous reports we'd heard that Tom Hardy originally signed into the movie without ever having seen a script. So, yes, a lot of this is studio interference, but it seems like he was not meant to handle a blockbuster like this and an ensemble like this. There's a lot of really talented actors in this movie, and it just seems like he didn't really know what he was doing. Of course, we're going to hold our judgment until we see the movie tomorrow. But with all these reports coming out, you have to wonder how much is the studio and how much was the ineptitude of the director and the editors.
Well, I also feel that, in a film this divisive with
fans. And one more thing. The reshoots for comedy were 100% accurate. I want to state that for the record. Go ahead.
Courtney disagreed with that, by the way, in the interview. But
yeah, I don't know. There's so much that's come out. We know that Warner Brothers went into panic mode after Batman vs Superman came out, and that's when the reshoots were ordered. I have no doubt that they were already scheduled, but they probably changed those up to do some other things. There's been reports, one guy who got to see a test screening of it back in February, like at Warner Brothers headquarters, said that version that he saw was far superior to the one that's in theaters, because that was Ayer's original vision. It was a little bit bleaker. It wasn't as funny. But after Batman vs Superman came out, it was panned for being too dark. They said, "Oh, we'll make it funny. Basically, make it funny. We'll include the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack style stuff." And that just, you could tell the editing was all over the place. There's stuff in the trailers, like from the first look that we got last year, and from even the trailers this year, that are not in the final movie. All the colorful logos and stuff were a studio decision and not how Ayer wanted. Reports we're hearing out of this are absolutely insane. I can't wait to read the tell-all about DC Studios in a decade.
I don't have anything to add.
I think that sums it up for me. Really, I'm not trying to say it for both of us, but
we called it.
I'm not gonna. So I don't want to say that, because that really, we're fanboys of both. Like, we really, really, really want DC to be on Marvel level, because these are characters that we love. I mean, I can't. How many times have we said on this show Wonder Woman is probably our most anticipated movie coming out?
Right. Yeah, but I mean, you know, this comes from the fact that, like, me and you have been a part of the film world, you know, castings, watching them, you know, being a part of them for so long, you know, that you can almost tell from just casting, not even the people that they're casting, but the amount of casting, whether a movie's going to be good or not, what they're trying to shoot for, right? And then we said it when they even announced the movie before any casting was made. And I think I was the one that brought it up. And I was like, this is going to be their Guardians of the Galaxy. They're going to try really hard to mimic that. And this is not a movie that should be in the first part of your universe building cinematic universe. This is
the movie you do after a solo Batman film, before Justice League Part 2.
Right. You know, or even after Justice League Part 2 to kind of continue the fun, which is what Marvel wanted to do. They were like, we want to do something different and fun and kind of, you know, so people don't think, oh, it's just another comic book movie. If they would have put Guardians of the Galaxy in front of Captain America, right, it wouldn't have done as well. People weren't ready.
It's one thing to not own all the rights to your characters, right? But I mean, I fully believe that if we had the Fantastic Four or X-Men over at Marvel Studios, we would not have seen Guardians of the Galaxy. I fully 100% do not think we would have seen Guardians. You know, they might have gotten a cameo somewhere. We probably would have gotten Adam Warlock still. We would not have gotten Peter Quill. We would not have gotten Rocket Raccoon. It's just, there's really nothing to add. I mean, it's apparent at this point the studio itself is horribly mismanaged. They're trying to micromanage everything, and we'll probably never know how much is their fault and how much is the filmmaker's fault, because whenever a movie turns out badly, both parties have to assume responsibility.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, I hear the ultimate cut of BVS is really good, so maybe it is. I still need to see it.
From everything I've gathered, it just makes more sense. Not that
I should not have to go see director's cuts for movies to make sense, though.
No, and that's I think that's everybody's opinion, though. Is
right.
Like the funny stuff from Reddit you were sending me, that it shouldn't take 15 hours Lord of the Rings style to make something make sense or make it better. If you can't make a movie in today's day and age with all the technology, the money that floats around, a 2.5 hour movie, if you can't make that good with the success of your rival studio constantly doing it, then there is something wrong with the people that are making these movies. And it's not the characters, it's not the comic books, it's none of that stuff. It is the people who are leading the charge and trying to make this a real thing.
Absolutely.
So when I always hear these, and when we say fanboys, we mean those like people who are just like, they don't want to see another way, that they're just over the top obnoxious, and they curse and they, threaten and all that stuff. And they come up with conspiracy theories, whenever they're like, oh, it's Marvel, you're saying that stuff because you're a Marvel fanboy. Like, no, I'm also a DC fanboy. I probably have more knowledge in my head about Superman than almost anyone on the face of the planet, save maybe 2 or 3 people. But, if you're going to sit there and you're going to go, people are saying this because they want Marvel to succeed and DC not to, that is factually inaccurate. I want a good Superman movie. I want a Superman movie that just blows everybody away. If Man of Steel would have blown everything out of the water that Marvel had, I would have been happier. I would have been so happy I would have shit in my seat. I'm not even gonna lie to you right now. I'm hoping that's Wonder Woman. I'm bringing a male diaper for Wonder Woman. It's something I want to see. And if anybody who's ever talked to me knows how stoked I am for Aquaman, because I love Jason Momoa and I've met him and he's a really nice guy. He's a massive mountain of a man, but he's a really nice guy. I'm looking forward to that. I want them to succeed, but I want them to stop making stupid decisions. Please, love of God.
Yeah, I think that sums it up.
Okay. Yeah. Well, over at Disney, there are other editing and reshooting problems that are plaguing Star Wars Rogue One. Reports are emerging that Tony Gilroy, the Bourne trilogy and Nightcrawler, one of mine and Josh's favorite films from last year, has been brought in to help supervise reshoots, rewrites, and the editing of the film in anticipation of the December blockbuster's release. Reports say director Gareth Edwards, Godzilla, which always worried me, is still heavily involved in the film, and the two are working together to finish the film, particularly the ending.
So there's a couple of reasons why this doesn't. This concerns me a little bit. I'm not going to lie. This actually concerned me a little bit when I heard this, and then I lightened up a little bit once I realized who was helping with the rewrites. Christopher McQuarrie came in from Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol, and Rogue Nation. He came in to help out with some of the problems after Gary Whitta left with the script, because I think Chris Weitz was an absolutely terrible person to appoint to write the script after Gary Whitta left. Tony Gilroy actually is like a mentor to Gareth Edwards. Think of him as
Obi-Wan to Luke Skywalker.
Sure, let's just go with that. I was trying to think of a film metaphor, but he's basically a mentor to him, and he's also very close with Kathleen Kennedy, and her husband Frank Marshall. So he's not going to be credited on this film, but he did help out with Godzilla also when Godzilla was close to being finished. He kind of helped Gareth in the home stretch. So it seems like Gareth can put together these great blockbusters, but then they kind of fall apart. I'm really hoping that that's not the case with this, because Monsters, his first film, is awesome. It's a great film, shot over 5 days, and was a surprise indie hit.
I really like that movie. I took a chance on it, and I was like, oh, this is really good.
I'm in the camp of people who likes Godzilla for what it is. I never expected it to be a fantastically written movie. I mean, it's Godzilla. Come on. But aside from the whole Bryan Cranston being totally misleading in that movie, it actually was pretty enjoyable to me. And so I was kind of stoked when he got appointed to do this. Not for this particular movie. I still think he would be better suited to do like a bounty hunters film. But we'll see. We're about 4 months out now from seeing this. So I don't know. I don't know if I could handle another disappointment in 2016, especially if it's Star Wars. After the high that was The Force Awakens, this movie's going to already be super scrutinized. But man, I just hope they get this together. It's the Suicide Squad track this is going on right now.
Right.
The reshoots came out, and reshoot, like we stressed when we broke the news on both, reshoots are not uncommon for blockbusters. It usually happens. They had to come out and straight out say it's not to put Alden Ehrenreich into the movie. It's not to put him in. He will not be in it as Han Solo, which actually took away probably my biggest fear regarding this film. He will not be shoehorned in, but there's very clearly some problems with this movie, and they can't afford to push it. At this point, you already have all the merchandising deals, and that's part of what the Hollywood Reporter was saying about Suicide Squad. You make these deals 2 years in advance, basically, for a movie that's going to come out. It's very costly to delay a blockbuster like that. That's a tentpole film. Disney can't push it back.
Right.
They have nowhere to put it. They have to release it however it ends up, and God be with them, basically. They've already pushed it once. It was supposed to come out in May originally, and then they said, no, we'll push it so that way it's not coming out 6 months after The Force Awakens. So we'll see how this turns out. I don't know. Fingers crossed, though. Tony Gilroy is awesome. He was a producer on Nightcrawler, wrote all the Bourne movies, wrote and directed Michael Clayton, which, if you've never seen that, is an awesome movie with George Clooney. So he knows what he's doing. The only black mark on his record, really, is that he helped write Armageddon with J.J. Abrams, and then he did The Bourne Legacy. Other than that, it's a super solid career. If there's anybody who can fix it, it's him.
Hopefully, Because, I mean, I've always felt like the anthology series was going to be the prequels, and the main series was getting back on track.
Don't get me wrong. I think that this is going to be better than the prequels were. I'm just saying anybody expecting something better than Return of the Jedi should probably start tempering their expectations right now.
Right.
I'm not expecting to go in there and it be on the same level as The Force Awakens. If it's on the level of The Force Awakens, I don't know. I'll do something insane. We'll figure out something insane for me to do on air. Everybody remind me about this show. I will do something stupid on air if this is as good as The Force Awakens. If it does as good on Rotten Tomatoes as that, I will do something insane on air.
Right. Fair enough. I'm holding you to that. Well, DC has announced Injustice 2 will be getting a comic to bridge the gap between the original game. They have like 4 years of comic books. What?
The 4 years of comics lead up to the original game.
They should have changed that and thought ahead and planned ahead. The comic will be digital first, just like the current Injustice comic chronicling the rise of Batman and his resistance. No release date has been given outside of the game debuting ahead of the game sometime in 2017.
It's cool. I'm down for it. Injustice is a really uniquely done comic. It's a fun comic to read. It's pretty much the comic that kept me connected to the DC universe really post New 52. It's, I think, the only one that I really dabbled in. I didn't really care about anything after in the New 52 other than Batman for a long time, and then finally went back and reread all of Justice League. But really like what they did with Injustice. This could be a cool story. I just think at this point, those of us who were initially intrigued are kind of worn out. They did way too much with it.
Right.
So I don't know if I can take another couple of years reading all the material between the games. I don't really care. The first game story was so cool. I don't need all the backstory, you know? But it is different. It's different than anything that DC is doing in their other lines or that Marvel is doing. So, I don't know. It doesn't hurt. And I like the whole digital first format. It's a really cool series to be doing that with.
Right. Well, at the annual TCA tour, HBO announced that Game of Thrones will indeed end after Season 8. HBO has been incredibly pleased with the series' performance and has not ruled out doing a spin-off series of some sort, noting the world is huge and rich with content to expand upon. In other HBO news, they are open to doing a third season of True Detective with a new writing team and are promoting Jonathan Nolan's adaptation of Westworld for an October 2nd premiere. So I want to attack this by points. Number one, I respect the living hell out of the creators, the writers, the actors, anybody who's worked on Game of Thrones and who was like, we're going to finish it at 8 seasons. We're not going to drag this out.
I respect HBO for letting them.
Yeah, right. That was, my point B to that one. I respect HBO for doing that. One of my favorite sci-fi series of all time, Battlestar Galactica, the newer series. After 4 or 5 seasons, they said, we have no more story to tell. This is it, guys. We're not going to drag it out. We're not going to do like a season long of people getting, hooking up and more running. This is it. This is the story we wanted to tell. We're telling it. We're finishing it. We're good. We're going to give you something solid so that when you go back.
That's why I'll always have a degree of respect for, I know it's probably the most divisive show to ever air, Lost. It really lost its way after season 1. Great first season. Season 2 is god-awful. One of the most disappointing seasons of television I've ever watched. Up there with True Detective season 2, which we'll get to in a minute. But when season 3 was about halfway over, they came out and said, okay, we just got a renewal for 3 more years. We asked them to end us at season 6 so we can tell a story. This is how many episodes are going to be in each. These are going to be the extended episodes. We're telling you years in advance so you can't get mad at us. The ending still was terrible, but I will always respect them for what they did in seasons 3, 4, and 5. That was some of the funnest television I have ever seen week to week.
Right.
So ending Game of Thrones at season 8, as somebody who's just been getting into it and is finally basically caught up, it's like, oh my God, why? Like, I don't want it to end. Like, I'm getting into this super late. Then the seasons are going to be shorter now, but it needs to happen. They're ending it on their terms, and they're ending it before Martin is with the books. Come on. What more can you ask for?
I think it's another reason so that they can tell what they have planned for their story, finish it off, let Martin do his thing, and everybody's golden.
Right.
Them being open to True Detective season 3 with new writers.
Was there a season 2? I don't remember a season 2.
all I'm saying is that going to be really hard to top season 1. We've already had that proven.
Right.
I kind of feel like if they're going to do it, bring in big actors again, but bring in much more serious actors. I mean, Woody Harrelson was just, God, he was amazing, and you didn't expect him to be that amazing. And then pairing him with Matthew McConaughey was just fabulous. And it was a very...
It was performance we'd never expected from both of them.
Right. It was a very personal tale. There was a lot of philosophy in there, a lot of Nietzschean stuff. Get back to that, right? Like, get back to that.
The only way, I'm just going to keep hopping on your points so we can get through this. The only way I'd ever want to see a True Detective season 3 is if Cary Goji Fukunaga came back to handle the series.
Yeah,
that is the only way. But he's too busy making amazing movies like Beasts of No Nation. So,
right.
Go figure.
The other thing too is I know Matthew McConaughey has said several times he would love to return to the role of Rust Cohle, which I would not be against. An old Rust Cohle like we saw at the end of True Detective season 1.
If it was an old Rust, I would be okay with. But that character is so legendary from those 8 episodes alone that I don't ever want to see him again, and I'd be okay.
Yeah, right. I mean, if I have those 8 episodes with him, I'm good to go.
It would need to be a glorified cameo done perfect if they brought him back.
Yeah. Or, I'm open to him being the main character again, like a last ride where he dies at the end, because I think that would be glorious.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I could get behind any of this. Like in a dream scenario, though, I like the idea of True Detective seasons kind of standing on their own.
Right.
Similar to Black Mirror, like everything stands on its own there.
Yep.
I would really prefer to keep that going with this. The first season, we've both said it's probably the best first season of television we've ever seen.
Yes.
I don't even make the argument that it's the first season anymore. I argue it as a miniseries personally. But it's
at the 8 episode mark, I could agree with that.
At the 8 episode mark, and the fact that they're standalone stories, but that's neither here nor there. The bottom line is, if you're going to do season 3 of True Detective, do it right or call it something else.
Right.
That's all I'm going to say. I'm done.
Okay. Well, moving on to Westworld. This is actually a series I'm excited about.
So excited for this.
Used to watch the movie with my grandmother. It's such an obscure sci-fi / Western movie.
It's delightfully cheesy.
It is. Yul Brynner from The King and I is in it, and he is like the psychotic android stalking people through the desert. Was Sean Connery in Westworld? Yeah, he was.
I think so.
Yeah. It's absolutely delightful. But the fact that they're taking it a more serious route kind of gives me that, to bring it up again, that Battlestar Galactica feel where the original thing was campy and cheesy. And then, the remake was just so serious and so dramatic, and it was so well put together. And I'm really hoping...
Here's the cast for this real fast. Anthony Hopkins, Ed Harris, Evan Rachel Wood, James Marsden, Jeffrey Wright, Tessa Thompson, Jimmy Simpson, Rodrigo Santoro, and Ben Barnes.
That's a great list.
That's pretty great. The weakest name on there, the 2 weakest are the last 2 names for me personally. Those are Thandie Newton is in it. Shannon Woodward. They went all out on getting a lot of people on board with this. It's from Jonathan Nolan, of course. I'm really interested to see how this show does. It's already underneath a lot of criticism, scrutiny after showing the pilot this week at TCA. So we'll see how this turns out. I'm really excited for it, though. Just a little over a month. Or about 2 months, I guess. About 2 months.
Yeah, October 2nd, I believe, is the release date.
Yeah. Really excited. Maybe I'll have Game of Thrones finished by then.
Hopefully. Moving on to one of our favorite companies, Marvel has announced that Jason O'Mara will be joining Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in Season 4 as the new director of the agency. Marvel also revealed new details of the upcoming season, saying Coulson and the director are sure to butt heads over the events of the Season 3 finale, as the director's objective is to take down Skye. Also coming into question will be the relationship between Fitz and Simmons, and Fitz's relationship with Dr. Radcliffe, who is working on a project that will change the world.
Yeah, so I mean, Marvel basically they aren't going to outright say it. They're going to let it happen in the series. Radcliffe is making the life model decoys.
Right.
I think it's an interesting direction to take the series, and I think it's going to start moving it towards an end game. We've long said we think that it's going to end with season 5. That's the magical syndication number, and it's probably going to spin Ghost Rider off into his own series on Netflix, which they won't confirm until after the Defenders. So cool. I mean, all this, I'm good with all of this. Just please don't take Fitzsimmons apart already.
Right. We waited long
They
enough.
They finally got together. Please don't rip them apart.
Right. I'm still under the impression, man, that Ghost Rider will not be spun off onto Netflix. That with this younger version of the Ghost Rider, this will be an ABC thing. That's just my opinion. Don't take it as the gospel, but I think it's funny that he's showing up on the ABC show and not in any of the Netflix stuff. And whether or not it's to rush to get the character out there so people can, interact with it and see it on TV, see what they're doing and whatnot.
I mean, there's been demand for Ghost Rider for a while, and they've had the rights back to it for quite a while too. I'm interested to see what they do with him. So, I don't know. Robbie Reyes is a fairly recent character in the comics. He was introduced in 2014 as the new Ghost Rider. Yeah, he drives a car, and not the signature one. Not the signature bike, excuse me. So we'll see. I'm really, really excited to see what they do here. There's a lot that you can definitely do. And he does have a connection with Mr. Hyde, with Sky's father. He has a connection with him in the comics. So fingers crossed that Mr. Hyde, Mr. Kyle comes back. I'd love for that to happen.
We love Kyle MacLachlan.
Yeah, Kyle MacLachlan. I couldn't remember his last name. Kyle MacLachlan, definitely. Any excuse to get him back on this show, especially if he goes crazy again, would be awesome. He was definitely the highlight of season 2. So, good news all around.
Plus, he'll be in Twin Peaks.
I always forget about Twin Peaks.
Boy, do I not forget about Twin Peaks. In more Marvel news, Netflix discussed their upcoming slate at TCA and said they would like to make more shows quicker, hinting that 2 series a year is no longer enough for them as long as they maintain quality. Netflix's president, Ted Sarandos, also let it slip that The Punisher may appear in The Defenders, as well as confirming we will not see a 3rd season of Daredevil or a 2nd season of any show before The Defender premieres next year. I like that idea, that they're holding off on The Punisher until after The Defenders, because if John Bernthal is as amazing as he is in just Daredevil season 2, and it's for the entire 10 episode, 13 episode, whatever they're giving him, that is literally going to be the best show on television that year. And you don't want that taking away from your team up, right? God, I get giddy when I think about The Punisher, man.
So I think next year we end up with 3 series at least. If they're saying they want to put them out more, they basically already announced the creative team behind the Punisher series. We will get Iron Fist, we will get the Defenders, and then I believe we will get Punisher in the fall. I have zero doubts about that. And then probably Jessica Jones and Daredevil season 3 in 2018. They basically said we're not getting Daredevil before then. They left it open for Jessica Jones to possibly be next fall. So I don't know. And of course, it depends on if Marvel TV can get away from Perlmutter, what all can happen in these shows. I really get the feeling like right now they're biding some time and hoping by the time the Defenders happens next summer, okay, maybe we've got a deal. We can sneak in a last-second cameo, and maybe Spider-Man swings through or something. And then, that's it. Everything's blown open. I would love that, but I'm not going to hold my breath. I like how the Defenders are shaping up in their own corner of the universe. Would I love for Luke Cage, Daredevil, Jessica, and Danny to all team up with the Avengers? Yes, I would love nothing more than a glorified cameo when they're basically the only ones left alive in Infinity War 2. But if that doesn't happen, I'm okay. I'm okay with that because we're getting the Defenders out of this.
All I want is after all this stuff comes out, I don't want Luke Cage season 2. I don't want Iron Fist season 2. I want Heroes for Hire season 1.
We've long thought that they will. I actually didn't think that they would do a second season of Jessica Jones. I just thought they would roll all 3 of them together into a Heroes for Hire series to keep their story going and be able to introduce new shows and new characters. If we don't get freaking Moon Knight out of all of this, I'm gonna be pissed.
We're getting it. I'm almost positive Moon Knight's coming, man.
I'm gonna need them to consult the latest story from Jeff Lemire in this, because that would just destroy everybody's knowledge of Moon Knight.
Well, it's a great series. It's a series that I know you and Ray rave about on Pull List, and you know that I rave about it to you in private.
Oh God, it's so good.
We love it, but I really think that with the release of Ghost Rider, right? With
Midnight Sun.
Yeah, that's one of them. But if you have Moon Knight, you have the Punisher, you have Daredevil, you also have what? Marvel Knights, baby.
Marvel Knights, yes.
So there's many different team-ups that we could be seeing on television over the next couple of years. Obviously, we have said this several times on many different episodes. Midnight Suns is something that we want so bad. But if you gave me Marvel Knights instead, I'd still be happy. I'd be like, awesome. Vigilante Justice with Moon Knight, the Punisher, and Daredevil. If Chadwick Boseman is cool and decides to show up as Black Panther for an episode, donezo. I'm finished. I'll never need to watch anything ever again.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited. I think that the future looks really, really bright for Marvel's Netflix slate, and I'd be okay if they even just did a couple of like 2 or 3 hour movies instead of doing full-on series for some of these characters. I'd be okay with that.
Or even like a 3-part miniseries, right? 2 hours each one. I'm good with it.
Right, go the Sherlock route. I'd be okay with that. So there's just so much, especially for some of these smaller characters, if you want to do them. But yeah, great stuff. Great stuff there.
Everyone should be on the lookout for more of that stuff from us and from Marvel. Yeah, it's an exciting time. Ubisoft. This is the last bit of news. This is the end of the newscatastrophe. Newspocalypse.
What a catastrophe it's been.
Newsaramas.
Newsaramas.
News Pulse. Is that when a newspaper gets nipples? News Pulse.
You're done.
I'm not the one drinking. Ubisoft has officially confirmed a film adaptation of The Division after months of rumors. The film will star Jake Gyllenhaal, so it will bomb, and Jessica Chastain. No plot details or release dates are known, but we can only hope for a faithful recreation of the Dark Zone and low gear levels preventing the audience from progressing in the film. So true. I love you. Ubisoft has had 4 other adaptations in the works: Watch Dogs, Rabbids, Ghost Recon, and Splinter Cell. I'll
go see this. I have no problem admitting right now I will probably be seeing this opening weekend. One, the names Jake Gyllenhaal and Jessica Chastain will get me into almost any movie that they're in.
Prince of Persia.
Dude, I love Prince of Persia. Don't even start with me. 18-year-old me thought Prince of Persia was the shit.
I need you to do me a favor, Josh. Right by your laptop, there's this button labeled Power. I want you to just push on that for a couple of seconds and just turn your shit off.
I've never admitted this on the internet before. Prince of Persia is one of my biggest guilty pleasures. I really liked it, and I do not blame that movie on Jake Gyllenhaal in the least. I actually thought that was one of the brighter spots for film adaptations of video games. It was definitely better than freaking Resident Evil. But of course, calling it one of the better ones isn't saying much. So,
yeah, that's like saying that you have anal warts, but they're small.
So I think the idea of The Division as a movie works. I like the basic premise. There's been a plague that breaks out on Black Friday. The city's gone dark, and Jake Gyllenhaal is part of a Black Ops team inserted into the city. I love that as a basic premise. I think that's awesome, especially after seeing him as a sociopath in Nightcrawler. I almost hope that he's the villain.
I think
but he won't be.
I think that premise actually works better as a television show, to be honest.
I would say television, but we all know how everybody likes to milk everything. There would be multiple seasons of it, and I think it would be ruined. Condensing it into a 2.5-hour movie, I think it's a solid start. And if you can come up with a legitimate sequel, go for it. Maybe it thrives better as a movie series, or spins off into a TV show after the movie, instead of a game series. Because as we all know, the game wasn't really that great. It was just bad. Jessica Chastain is a pretty solid actress. I say solid. She's nominated for the Academy Awards all the time.
Let's be honest, though. The Division was a good game. Okay. For the first half of it, right? Like, we had a lot of fun with the gunplay, teaming up. I
had fun watching you blow yourself up.
Okay, you gotta let that go. It was a fucking door. They are dangerous in New York City.
He blew himself up at Madison Square Garden, people.
So did Kobe Bryant. What up?
Because Kobe has game and you don't. Anywho's.
You're a bitch. Anyway, what do you call it? It's really the mid-level to higher level mechanics, right? That Destiny kind of grind that really didn't work. The gunplay was phenomenal. I had a lot of fun on the missions, playing with friends and whatnot. But when you get to the end game, the amount of grinding that needed to be done for absolutely no payoff was just terrible.
The Dark Zone was a failed experiment. There's so many people just like, the second you get, or even if you're in groups, even if you do looking for group for this, and all of a sudden you pick up your loot, and then boom, you're killed instantly. You're killed instantly, even by your team. They'll just betray you to take your gear. That's horrible. That was one of my fears about this game going in. It happened to me 2 or 3 times, and I said, nope, I'm done. Right. I beat the campaign, and I don't think I picked it up again after the campaign. I played a little bit of the Dark Zone, and by a little bit, I mean like 45 minutes, and then I was done. I have never sold a game that quickly after launch except Call of Duty Ghosts.
I mean, the overall premise of the game was fun, and we did have a lot of fun at the beginning. Like, I couldn't put it down at the beginning. I loved it.
No. We definitely had fun. It's fun if you were playing with a group of people. It was a blast. It's just it fell into the same trap as Destiny. It's super repetitive. The DLC is even worse than Destiny somehow. It's just the game itself failed. I think it'll work well as an adaptation. I'm almost more excited about these other adaptations they have in the works, because I'm adamant that Assassin's Creed is going to be, at the very least, a decent film. It's Michael Fassbender. He takes things that should be complete crap and elevates them to watchable. So if this is actually a so-so film, he might make it decent. He just elevates it. He's one of the very few actors in the industry today who can do that. And
you know which one of those adaptations I'm actually looking forward to the most? And this is true. It's not a joke.
Watch Dogs.
Rabbids. I love the Raving Rabbids. I love them.
Do you really?
I do.
Oh my goodness. I don't like this.
I don't like the games. Like, the games are okay, right? Like, I mean, it's child's play, but there was one on the 360, right, where you could watch like all the funny cut scenes from the Rabbids, and there was one. I will always remember this video for the life of me, that I laughed so hard I cried and I pissed myself a little bit, and I don't know why, but it was just this one Rabbid, like, dressed in a maid's outfit, and it's like looking over its shoulder, and all of a sudden it just turns around and screams at you while holding a feather duster, and I don't know why. Every time I would watch it, I would laugh hysterically.
My only concern about a Rabbids movie is that it'll be exactly like Minions, a bunch of little midgets that are just making inane babbling. That's the only reason why. Oh my god, you have problems, sir. I think the other 3 actually I think out of the other ones, Ghost Recon is actually probably the weakest, because we've seen that premise a million times in movies before.
Right.
Splinter Cell, Tom Hardy is attached to star in it. He's been attached for years. He's asked about it regularly. He's like, yeah, I still want to be in it. I'm still waiting for a script. I want to be in it. Come on. And then I think Watch Dogs, if done right, could be an amazing movie. I think it could be much better than the game actually was. Just ditch Aiden Pierce as a person because he's not interesting. Make it a fully original. Just basically give it the same name. That's essentially what I'm trying to get at, I think.
Right. Like, do it like Assassin's Creed, where it's part of the universe, but it's not the character.
Unlike Splinter Cell, which Tom Hardy has to be Sam Fisher. That's the only way I'll excuse that. And the only way I'll excuse a Ghost Recon movie is if Captain Scott Mitchell is in it. But I think that Ubisoft is onto something here. I just fear if these are successful, and if the Uncharted movie, which finally got a writer a couple weeks ago, if those are successful films, critically and commercially, that this will be the new comic book craze, which means we're going to have to suffer through a whole lot of crap. And I don't know if I'm really prepared to deal with that, because there's not many games I would want turned into movies. Like, their narratives are told in games for a reason. There's a reason why they're not movies or TV shows to begin with.
Right.
So
I think Naughty Dog games would be a lot easier, though, to change into films because of.
I think Naughty Dog games absolutely do not need to be films, and that's because
they don't need to be. I think but I mean, because of their cinematic quality, would probably be the easiest to transfer. But
absolutely,
my biggest fear about Uncharted is that Nathan Drake is so Nathan Drake that. I mean, everybody's like, oh, Nathan Fillion or this guy. That look, Nathan Drake is Nathan Drake. It's Nolan North. Someone will do a decent job, but Nathan Drake will always be Nathan Drake. The Naughty Dog's characters are just so tangible that it's going to be hard to see anybody portray them.
Yeah. There's pretty much no way to get around that. And I don't know. I think there's a lot that you can do with video game adaptations, but I think it works better when the premise is either A, really vague to begin with, so The Division and Watch Dogs, really, if it's a vague premise that could be done kind of anywhere, or if it's something that fits into the larger universe like Assassin's Creed. Films that are extremely loose adaptations, basically adaptations in name only, like Resident Evil, there's a reason why they're not good. There's a reason why people don't really like them and why they're really niche films. There's a reason why the CG movies are loads better than the live action ones. So, right. I mean, look at how bad Final Fantasy Spirits Within is compared to Advent Children, which is a bona fide masterpiece.
Right.
I don't know. I think trying to make these into live action movies is a lot more difficult than it sounds, because you're taking a narrative that plays out over 12 to 15 hours for the average single player game, or much, much longer for a Final Fantasy game or a Mass Effect, and trying to condense it into a 2-hour film. A lot gets lost in that translation. I think if video games made the move to miniseries in a lot of cases, like you were saying for The Division, I think I would love to see a Mass Effect miniseries, for instance.
Yeah, I was literally just about to say that. Even a full blown TV show, Mass Effect, give it to me. I'm down. Let's do this.
Yeah, if someone like HBO got behind it, it could be really good. And I don't say HBO because it needs to be edgy, it needs to be rated R. No, I say that because they take the money and they take so much pride in their development. That could be your next Game of Thrones level hit.
Right.
That could be your next big thing. You're going to that's kind of what they're hoping Westworld is, right? It's something set in a different era that is completely wacky, and they're really hoping they hit it out of the ballpark with this. And I mean, you just get a couple of really good actors in there, and you can do this. You can do that with Mass Effect. You could probably do one with Red Dead Redemption, although I would probably never want to see that. I've played extensively in the game, but
I would watch a Red Dead Redemption movie, but I like westerns, so that's just me.
Yeah, and there's plenty that could lend themselves to it. Of course, we all know I'm a big fan of Quantum Break. I really like how they integrated the live action segments to it. I wish we got more of that. I thought it was really well done, especially with Aidan Gillen being such a big part of it. And I love him on Game of Thrones, love him in this. That's probably the thing I regret the most about this whole generation of gaming, though, ultimately, is Microsoft kind of wanted to do stuff like this, and everybody revolted so much that it went away.
Right.
They had it as generic. They had a Halo series plan. Of course they did. Microsoft is a multi-billion-dollar company. You can rest assured they would have put so much money into making sure that was good. I have no doubt. I mean, at one point, don't forget, Peter Jackson was going to make a Halo movie.
Right.
That is my biggest cinematic regret that we have never gotten, was Peter Jackson and Weta making a Halo film.
Well, they had already built a Warthog for a test, so.
They built the Warthog for a test. They used it in 3 little 5-minute shorts that Neil Blomkamp did. And I'm just like, I would take a whole series of this with a little bit more money and some better CG. I would take an entire series of this. What are you doing?
If you told me that Peter Jackson was executive producing, Weta was making all the stuff, and Neil Blomkamp was directing, I would never watch anything else for the rest of my life. If it was
That's what was supposed to happen. That is exactly what was supposed to happen. And when it didn't, that's how we got District 9. So, in a way,
look. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Probably one of the top 3 sci-fi movies of the past God knows how long. So thank you.
I love District 9. You know, Elysium is okay, and I think Chappie is super underrated. But the point is, Blomkamp could have done Halo, guys. I'm a Halo fanboy. This makes me really sad.
I'm a Blomkamp fanboy, so I would have been like, yeah.
I like all 3 of them. Right. God. Anyways.
Well, I'm going to wrap this up, guys. Or Josh, really, because there's only 2 of us tonight. Guys, thank you for listening this week. It was only me and Josh. A lot of chaos going on in everybody's personal lives over the summer. Just a lot of weird stuff, work stuff, personal stuff. You know how it is. You are real human beings who listen to us, and we really do appreciate you. Josh, you got any shout-outs this week?
I'm trying to think. I had one, and I can't remember it. I'm legit having a problem remembering it. Yeah, I do have one actually. Now that I think about it, I have 2. One to Jeff Lemire for continuing to do amazing work on Moon Knight. This is seriously, it gets better with each issue, I feel. And if you've ever followed the history of Moon Knight, issue 5, if you even know a bit about his origins, issue 5 is a phenomenal tale. And I can't wait to see where they're going to take it in the second arc of this year. I'm really, really, really excited for that. So thank you, Jeff, for making one of my favorite characters, A, relevant again, and B, one of the most critically acclaimed comic books Marvel's put out the last couple of years. It's up there with Black Panther as one of the best rated of the year from Marvel. Yeah. And then my second shout out, God, I got to give it to some of the phenomenal actors on Game of Thrones. Of course, everybody knows I've been talking about it on here. I mentioned it on Pull List. I mentioned it on Game Break before. I've really gotten into Game of Thrones over the past month after being told for years that I needed to watch it. I tried reading the first 2 books, didn't really enjoy them at all. I will be trying the books again this fall, but just what is happening on that show is unlike anything I've ever seen on television. Had you told me 10 years ago that I would one day see a show with that much production value, I would have laughed at you. If you would have told me I would have seen battle sequences that rival The Return of the King, I would have laughed at you. And somehow HBO and the showrunners for Game of Thrones have done it. The actors, you can actually see the growth year after year in their roles as they become more secure in these characters, as they know more about the end game, whether they're the younger actors on the show like Massey Williams or if they're the older ones like Liam Cunningham. It's just amazing. And of course, you can't talk about Game of Thrones cast without mentioning the phenomenal Peter Dinklage. That may be one of the greatest portrayals of a character I've ever seen. That was in existing media before going to the screen. Big horse.
Oh, he owns that role, baby. Nobody else.
From the first couple of episodes, I was like, yeah, I can see why he got. I can see why he's nominated for awards. In season 2, when he's appointed as spoilers, obviously, but it's been out for years at this point. When he is appointed the King's Hand, basically the second in command of the entire kingdom, in place of his father, and you see just the shit he has to deal with. Dinklage's acting muscles come out so strong, and one of my favorite scenes of the entire series. I was telling Nick, our resident Game of Thrones super fan, about how one of my favorite scenes I've seen all the way up to the end of season 4 is in number 2, where the Joffrey is freaking out because somebody threw literally a pile of crap at him, and so he ordered all the peasants murdered. And Tyrion is screaming at him, and he smacks him because he won't shut up. He goes, "You can't talk to me that way. I'm the king." And so Tyrion smacks him across the face, just backhands him. He goes, "And now I've slapped the king. Oh, did my hand fall off?" And it's just so great how it comes across. But then he's genuinely concerned for Ned Stark's daughter. He feels responsible for her in wake of what happened to her father. It's just the relationships between these cast and these characters is amazing. They have such great camaraderie. I could do an entire show on this, so I'm going to stop. But All right, HBO, thank you for letting this creative expression go. This was an unfilmable series. Like, I don't know if anybody listening to this understands how unfilmable those books are, and somehow it's happened.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
thank you. Yeah.
Well, I got a couple of shout outs real quick. Virginia Ann Burton, who's a Harley Quinn cosplayer. Jeremy G. Branch from Be Terrible. He's a collaborator. We love him. He's a collaborator of ours, a collaborator of mine personally. Josh Hendricks, TBS Comics, Steve Wilcox, Becca Smith, and Zeke Gilmore all helped me out on a video yesterday. Guys did an amazing job. Stuck with it. Had a lot of fun doing it. That video can be seen on my solo channel, The Nerd Life with Chris Kiku Kubiak, as well as you can catch new content on Josh's solo channel, Amateur Hour with Josh Finney. He will have new stuff out, what, tomorrow? You said?
I'm hoping to have it out sometime this week. Probably over the weekend is when I'll start putting them all out. I recorded 5 new videos, so they'll be out soon. Look for, I did some reviews of Jason Bourne, went back and retroactively did some for Finding Dory and Ghostbusters, X-Men Apocalypse, and of course Game of Thrones Season 1. I gave my unbiased take on that one. So very excited to get all of those out.
As Nick hasn't been putting out as much content, if you guys are looking for a wealth of content, you can check out both of those channels, reviews from Josh, and you know what my guy's forte is comedy and reactions, quick reactions to stuff. That's Amateur Hour with Josh Finney and Nerd Life with Chris Kiku Kubiak. So check out those channels as well, guys. Subscribe to it. And of course, always stay tuned to the Neek channel, because we will come back full force wearing armor, ready to do Battle of the Bastards.
I understood that reference.
I know, that's why I made it. But with that, guys, y'all have you have a good week. Keep it nerdy as always, and that's it.
You already said it.
I know, I fucked up.